Have you always wanted to visit India, but the hassle of planning and the intensity of group schedules is putting you off? Hi, I'm Craig, owner and tour leader of Maharaja Tours. With 40 years experience traveling India, I curate stress-free luxury tours where you can expect top hotels, easy travel, excellent guides, and delicious food. Visit my website, www.maharajatours.co.nz, and explore your options for touring incredible India.
Listen, yesterday I got a very urgent email from our next guest, Jordan Williams, who's the Chief Executive of the Taxpayers Union, over something that, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm quite sympathetic towards, and that is gene technology. I'm a huge believer in human innovation, and I believe that as a general rule, science and scientific breakthroughs have improved the lifestyles, and quality of life of the human species. When I look around at all of the issues that we have in this country, I can tell you that the only thing that is going to, in actual fact, solve and resolve them is knowledge. And science and innovation will be the things that lead that particular knowledge. And so I've always looked at gene technology as a fantastic idea, and I'm looking forward to it. So I'm not a Frankenstein frightener. I have no difficulty with the idea of growing things or making things that make human life better and easier, whether they are in terms of medicines or whether they are in terms of food, or even something like constraining the flatulence of farting animals, the bovine species in particular, so that we can meet some of our methane guidelines. So, there you go. That's just so you know. So the Gene Tech Bill that's been introduced by the government is designed to deal with what I regard as the Luddite-like views and the scare tactics of previous administrations, National and Labour, and allow that innovation and scientific breakthrough to be given some degree of currency in the modern world. And potentially boost particularly our export revenue from an agricultural or horticultural basis. Although, as I say, it has applicability in a wide range of areas, including medicines as well. Except it's gone to a select committee, it's been looked at. New Zealand First are worried about letting the genie out of the bottle, which I just talked about, I think. But ACT and the Taxpayer Union have in actual fact raised something much more serious, in actual fact a constraint upon the innovation and coming from the usual source. To talk about that, as I said, Chief Executive of the Taxpayer Union, Jordan Williams, joins us now. Jordan, thanks for joining us, mate. Lovely to have you on the show again.
G'day, Michael.
First things first, you're happy about the results over the weekend? You ran a campaign to do with rates capping and political candidates. Did you get your lot in as a general rule? Did it make any difference?
Yeah, we're pretty happy. I mean, David's actually got some analysis going up on his blog later today. But the analysis we've done so far shows a pretty clear correlation between those mayors and councils that put up rates, we would argue far too much, that got tipped out, and the re-election of those that didn't. So that's good. We had about 107, I think it is, candidates that signed the Ratepayer Protection Pledge being elected, including more than half a dozen mayors. So we're pretty happy with that. And, you know, that there is some results were a surprise. We were quite surprised with Hastings. A couple of solid mayoral candidates there that split the vote and let someone I'd argue is pretty weak that voted for putting kids on councils to replace Sandra Hazelhurst, who was got to be one of the worst mayors in the country. But then on the other side, there was Selwyn, and the chair of local government New Zealand got his backside handed to him.
Oh, yes, he did.
Absolute tumbling. But what are we now? 4 days after the preliminary results, he's still chairing local government New Zealand, which really says it all about the care that that organisation has to the democratic mandate. So all in all, we've still got a little bit of work to do on that, and we haven't done our formal sort of review on the staff of that campaign, but we were pretty happy with it. The volumes of going to that ratepayer voting guide were pretty high, so we're pretty confident that at least people were taking that into account.
The percentage of people who signed the pledge who got elected, what was that?
I'd need to go back and have a look. I'm sorry, I don't have that to hand.
Okay, all right.
Literally
No,
after this, I've got my weekly meeting with the team.
okay, cool. Listen, the next thing is this gene tech bill in particular. You've put out a press release to do with it, or something. So no, it's more of a call to arms, really, for all the Taxpayers Union. You are particularly concerned that it is being compromised. I've talked about innovation, technological breakthroughs, science, but you're worried it's going to be the one leg tied to a stake essentially through the involvement of ethnic, cultural, and Mātauranga Māori. Can you explain, please?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, the reason minds can differ on GE. It's pretty widely known, it's covered in our book, that one of the issues that first got me into politics was GE, and I was pretty concerned about the very arguments New Zealand First are raising, leaving the genie out of the bottle, etc., etc. I'm much more of a cautious optimist now, like you. And from a Taxpayers Union perspective, as I say, reasonable minds can differ. We have literally thousands of supporters that would be more on the cautious end of the spectrum, and literally thousands that would be on the end of fed farmers and the take purely the economic argument. I actually wrote that blast many weeks ago, and I've been umming and ahhing whether to put it out, simply because, as I say, GE is not in the traditional wheelhouse of the Taxpayers Union. But what the government has done, primarily, I understand, driven by the National Party. It is a National Party bill, or a government bill led by a couple of different National Party ministers, embeds a different form of co-governance under the guise of this is how we're fulfilling the treaty. Now, what it does is it allows not just iwi and hapu, or treaty partners, to assert a special kaitiati relationship with an indigenous species. It allows right down to individual Māori, and only Māori, to assert these relationships. And if that relationship is deemed to exist, what's called a Māori Advisory Committee, which is given equal prominence to the Technical Advisory Committee, i.e. the scientific advice given to the regulator, it must recommend that the license or the proposal or the use of that particular genetic research or gene technology based on a native species must not proceed. Now, a member of the committee has actually pointed out it's wider than that, because even if it's not a base native species, if it is deemed to have an effect on not a native species, but the relationship between an iwi, a hapu, or an individual Māori and that native species, then it must be recommended to the regulator it not proceed. And the only remedy to that is for the applicant to come up with conditions for which to mitigate those effects, some of which will be, at least under the original bill, will be kept confidential. So what we're pointing out is, look, this is a recipe for rent seeking. You can use other words. We prefer the economic term. And if your objective is to get, and as I say, reason why can differ on it, but if your objective is to enable the science and enable gene research in New Zealand in the way that our trading partners allow it, providing this layer over the top of that is not scientific, that is just as much cultural, historical, but also religious. Yes, spiritual. You've got it. Bingo. That is not the path to a prosperous New Zealand. In fact, I would argue it is a path to enormous costs and a quasi way to tax this technology, which means just stuff won't get done. Now, since writing that email, we've now got this, it's going to be tabled in the House later today, the Select Committee report. And I can tell you two things. Number one, only ACT raise these issues. The New Zealand First Party has a minority report, but they don't mention the racial elements that are injected into the bill whatsoever. It doesn't have a general treaty clause in the way that New Zealand First want to get
You mean the principles
away
of the Treaty of
from.
Waitangi?
Have you always wanted to visit India, but the hassle of planning and the intensity of group schedules is putting you off? Hi, I'm Craig, owner and tour leader of Maharaja Tours. With 40 years experience traveling India, I curate stress-free luxury tours where you can expect top hotels, easy travel, excellent guides and delicious food. Visit my website www.maharajatours.co.nz and explore your options for touring incredible India.